right?
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to a special Friday episode of the Artcasters. This is Artcasters number one, or I was going to say one, but no, we're way up there. We're at 257, and we've got an old friend back, which I'm excited to catch up with. But before we're going to do what we usually do and kind of do the rounds and talk about what we've got going on or what we're promoting or anything like that. So you're on my channel, so hopefully you know who I am, or if you're just maybe a fan of Gaz and you've never heard of me and you just come here to see Gaz, then I'm Scott. I'm at CircWorks on YouTube, and you can also find me at CircWorks online. And right now, because I'm lazy, I put up a Black Friday sale and I've been too lazy to take it down. So until I get off my butt and stop being lazy, you can get all my digital products for 50% off. So definitely check that out. And that's really all I got to promote. What about you, Josh?
Nice. The same thing I'm going to be promoting for like the next 90 days, but my graphic novel, 2 Stories by Marcosia. It's set to release on Monday, and pre-orders help a lot. So this is my graphic novel about faith and mental illness. And if you can, right now I'm trying to push people to Amazon. Obviously, once it's out and I start finding out indie bookstores that are selling it, I'll push people there. But for now, I really want that algorithm so that indie comics can rank up there. And it's been effective. So like, I want people to know, like, anybody who watches our show who's actually gone and like pre-ordered it like has helped it rank in areas really an indie book shouldn't be. So please continue and help it out. It's pretty exciting, and it's an important story, I think, during the pandemic.
I'll have you know that I have an Amazon like Christmas wish list, and your book is on my Christmas wish list. So
I love it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And your book is it's in my shopping cart. I pre-ordered it, I guess. So hopefully, if I don't get it
as a gift, I will buy it. But I was hoping somebody would buy it for me.
So Gaz, other than telling everyone where they can buy you Josh's book online, what else do you got going on? What you got anything to promote?
Well, I guess I would just like to promote it would be just like my Etsy store, which is Gazbot, and you can find, I do a lot of prints up there. I have some of my comics, but the main thing I'm selling, there's a lot of art prints of Godzilla, Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, things like that.
Nice.
And I've been working on some other stuff, but nothing nothing that's out that I could point someone to. Like I said, I've been working on some sketch cards, but I don't know. That's a longer answer than probably what is warranted right here.
Okay. Well, we're gonna. I mean, if that's all you kind of got to promote is yours. Now there is a link from your Etsy shop from your website, right? That I got up here.
Yeah. If you go to Gazbot.com, it has links to all my stuff.
Okay, cool.
My YouTube channel used to be a lot of art. Now it's a lot of Power Rangers review stuff. But you can still see my art on my Facebook page, my Instagram, and other places.
Yeah. Awesome. So I invited Gaz because it just seemed like it's been a while since we've really talked and everything. I wanted to get him on the show because it's always a good time, and I know he's got a lot going on. He's got a young daughter and everything. He's been adjusting to that whole life. So, but he did.
There's something about artists too, where it's easier to hang out and catch up if you're working or making a show. It'd be like, hey guys, let's just hang out online for an hour. I don't have time, but are we going to broadcast it? Yes. Okay.
Yeah. But so I was just kind of curious what you got going on. So the topic tonight is going to be online marketplaces. Gaz mentioned, because I always, when we do this, little inside baseball, but we always let the guest have first dibs on whatever the topic is, if there's something I want to talk.
I wanted to talk about the Mandalorian, but they said that wasn't really art related. So
we did Mandalorian. I haven't seen the new episodes, so no spoilers.
Yeah,
I'm going to watch it tomorrow, probably when I go to my girlfriend's. So, but yeah, I mean, in most cases, I mean, and it's getting kind of close to the holidays, so I wouldn't even mind just taking a break and just talking about stuff like that, But anyway, for future episodes, because it's like there's just so much going on right now. But so Gaz mentioned something about sketch cards, and then he talked about selling on Etsy and eBay and stuff, and I'm doing some of that, or I have done some of that in the past. So so I guess we can just kind of roll into it. And I'm kind of curious because you mentioned sketch cards. Is that something you're doing? Because In my experience, and I've never really dove into sketch cards because
Mhm.
the people that I've heard that have done them, it seems like it's really not worth it unless you've got a huge name for yourself and you could just turn those things around on the secondary market and make tons of money off of whatever. I guess you get. I don't know if you get like AP copies or
Yeah,
whatever.
you get artist proofs or blanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I am doing sketch cards, but I'm as new as you could possibly be. This is, I did a set of 10 sketch cards a couple months ago, and I just started doing another set of 10 for a different card set. So am I doing sketch cards professionally? Yes, but just barely, you know what I mean? So take everything I say with a grain of salt, but I have looked around and talked to some people, and I feel like what you're saying is correct. That the short version is sketch cards can be difficult to get into and don't pay anything.
Right.
But you get these artist proof cards that if you have a big name or if it's a hot property or you get lucky, might go for a lot of money. And it could go for hundreds or maybe $1,000, but you could also only get 10 or 20. You don't really know until you know. And I still don't know because the first set I did, it was for they're both for the same company. It's a smaller company called Richard Parks. It's RR Parks Cards. It's run by Richard Parks, and I got into it because I'd seen people doing like Star Wars for Topps and all this stuff, and I was like, how do they get into this? Because some of them are amazing artists, some of them are about as good as me, and some of them I'm like, how did they get that job? Like they're not the best necessarily. But I never really pursued it, and I saw somebody online. I do Godzilla and Ultraman stuff. I'm a big Ultraman fan. And somebody online, an artist I follow, was talking about doing sketch cards for an upcoming Ultraman card set. And I'm like, we're making an Ultraman card set? What the heck? Mm. And so I just wrote, I'm like, well, who's doing this? How did you get? And they're like, oh, this is the company. This is the guy. I mean, like, hit him up. And I don't do this. I'm not the guy that like writes the magazine and says, I want to, but I'm like, I'll give it a shot because it's Ultraman. How often does that come up? And I wrote him an email. I found him. I wrote his email and I wrote his Facebook page and said, hey, I saw you're doing this thing. You don't know me. Here's a bunch of artwork I do. Here's some Ultraman art and some Godzilla art. And it's kind of in my wheelhouse. And I'd really be interested in doing this. And he wrote me back and he said, okay, well, I need to see examples of your sketch card art. Like your art's nice, but that doesn't tell me what you could do. And I didn't really have a lot of examples of sketch card art. I had some like 9x6s and some 8x8s. And I had a couple sketch card like things. Like when somebody commissioned me to do a sketch card, like, so I had one that was just like a random piece of paper, not like an official one. And I put all that in. And then again, something I don't normally do was I was like, you know what? Just as like a proof of concept, I'm going to draw an Ultra character at that size in the style I would do it for them. Actually, I have it over here. I can show you. This was the one piece of art that like it was basically got a spec work. Like I did this. This is Ultra Ace, which is not even the first. But I just did it with microns and Pigma brush pen and some Copics, and I included that just in case he needs something else. And he wrote me back pretty quickly and was like, "Okay, Ultra Ace gets you the invite." And then he expanded upon it, like the other art was all nice, but I could tell it wasn't sketch cards. This one, you clearly just did it, but it proves that you can do it. And he's like, I've seen a lot of artists that are great artists, but when they have to get it done on a sketch card, it's garbage. So, so he gave me the job and I was ecstatic. And I did I don't know how much I don't know how specific I can get with like the contracts and stuff, but I think that I could say this is kind of an average, let's put it this way. A common deal that sketch card artists get is you have to do X amount of sketch cards and then you get X amount of blank cards. And then you get paid a small amount for each card you do. Sometimes as little as $1, sometimes as much as $15, $20. But like if you're getting $20 a sketch card, you are like on the upper echelon. That is not common. The real payment is the sketch card. So anyway, I did it. I gave him his 10. He liked him. He gave me my 2 back. He may or may not use me in future Ultraman sets he has. Fast forward, 6 months, whatever. I see him talking about, because he does a lot of these smaller properties, a small card company. So again, it might suck to work for Topps or something. I don't know. He's been a dream to work with. He's super easy to work with, very friendly. Like the pay isn't great, but that's the industry. That's not him. And there's this new B movie called Psycho Ape, I think, coming out or just came out, and it just looks like terror bad in all the right ways, and it's just like a bunch of like monkey like stabbing a heart with a banana. And I saw people talking about doing sketch cards for that. I'm like, I kind of like to do that too. Let me hit him up, see if lightning strike twice. And I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me. I did those other cards. And he's like, listen, thanks. I can't think about that right now. That one's not coming out. I'm working on this other set, Series 4, and some of my artists bailed. And I'm, unless you could do 10 cards in a month, to help me out. I'm like, what's it for? And he's like, Series 4 of Mystery Science 3000. I'm like, I can do that for you. And so that's what I'm working on now is some Mystery Science Theater 3000 sketch cards.
Nice.
Well, those are cool properties. It's funny because I don't know if you, I actually did a video. It's one of my more recent videos, but I haven't done any sketch cards, but I did a sketch cover, which I think pays a little more. Well, I don't know. Like I said, you charge whatever somebody will pay for it. So I assume if you get those cards, if you get some of those cards, then you can sell them. But yeah, so I did an Ultraman sketch cover.
Nice. I did not see that.
I guess Marvel put out. I didn't even know Marvel had the license for Ultraman, but that was fun to do. So, but yeah, I mean, I enjoy doing those. I just kind of when you told me that story, it's like, because I mean, when he said he couldn't really see that if you could do a sketch card based on your artwork. I find that a little hard to believe, but
I don't. No, I think because he said based on experience, and I believe it because it's the same as like somebody could draw a portrait doesn't mean they could do a caricature in 10 minutes. You know what I mean? It's a totally different skill set. And I'll even say I don't have the skill set to be a sketch card artist. And what I mean, and I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. Hold on, let me grab a prop here. Oh, you know what? I can't show you exactly, but I think most sketch card artists, I can show you the back. This is the back of one of the Mystery Science Theater cards, and you sign it and all that stuff. And the front is blank. It just has a little logo on it. And that's the same with the Ultraman ones where most people, maybe they do a sketch ahead of time, but again, these are very low paying. They'll kind of sketch on here. Some people paint them, which is crazy to me, and they'll do whatever they do. What I do is I draw it digitally about 4 times the size. Then I print it out this big on this little piece of paper. Well, it's not a big piece of paper that I cut out. And I can't show you the front again because I can't show the art yet. But if you look at the back, I rubbed it with a pencil to create like carbon paper. And then I tape it to the front of the card and I trace my own drawing so that then I have the bare bones lines on here. Then I go in and ink it, erase it, color it, and everything else because I don't trust myself to just draw straight on the card. If it was just Bristol paper, then I would be like, well, if I mess up, I mess up. But I've got 10 of these and he needs 10 back. If I mess up, what do I do? I'm sure this is not how most sketch card artists do it, especially, again, the time I've put in, I'm making less than $1 an hour at this point. You know what I mean? But I want to do a good job. And like, it's not, I'm not going to make a lot of money on it, but I want it to look good. And kind of like with Ultraman, these are just cool properties that I'd like to be associated with. And the hope is that then if people see these and they like them, then I can sell the AP cards for more money that makes the whole thing worthwhile. But
can you take your drawings that you've made and do prints of them?
I have not asked
digital drawing.
I've thought about that. They would.
I mean, granted, I guess it wouldn't fall under the license. I'm guessing, but
well, I mean, I sell a lot of prints that I don't.
Yeah, no, I know,
but I have not
because it's the same drawing as one that's on a card, kind of.
Sure. It wouldn't be exactly the same because, like I said, I kind of take the rough drawing, transfer it, clean it up. Ooh. If I made a print, it would look like somebody doing an homage to it. You know what I mean? It would not look the same.
Yeah.
And I have not asked him. The thoughts crossed my mind, and the thought has crossed my mind of like, is it better to not ask him because then if somehow it became a thing, he has plausible deniability. You know what I mean?
Better to ask. Better to, what is it? The phrase
forgiveness than permission. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's crossed my mind, but it's not. It's also kind of a weird dimensions. You know what I mean? Like so, I'd have to either crop it or add more. Like I think it'd be more worth. It would be easier just to do a new one rather than try to reuse one of those. I think.
So there was a question in the comments, and I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah.
So it was saying, why don't you just use stock carbon paper? And I would say, like, at least in my own experience of transferring, like carbon paper itself, like when you lay ink on it, it kind of bubbles, like it doesn't actually set over the carbon. So using graphite, rubbing graphite is better for like ink handling over it. Is that the reason?
No. I mean, that's a good bonus. No, yeah. I was unaware you could buy sheets of carbon paper. I've only ever seen them attached to other paper, like in an office setting.
Okay.
And I also, other than this, and one time when I had to do a mural on a wall, I've never had need for it.
Yeah.
And, so it never occurred to me that it existed. And if I end up doing a lot of sketch cards and I keep the system, then yeah, maybe I should invest in getting some. Unless you're telling me ink doesn't work on it, then I still won't. But
it's pretty. You can look around, but the general experience has been that it doesn't handle well. And like, it's funny. The only reason I know that is because like when I was in art school, we used to use the illustration board like Crescent.
Yeah.
So like you do these comps and you just do comp over comp over comp, like. And this is like pre-internet kind of era. So it's like you do all your drawings on like sheets of tracing paper.
Right.
Put tracing paper over it, like just like you would with
layers
and layers.
Yeah.
Finally, you'd have your final, work, and then you transfer it over. And usually a lot of the time we just buy like a big graphite stick or something that you could rub the back with to transfer.
Yeah, it didn't really take that long to do graphite. It was only a couple minutes.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, so it from Josh's point of view, it is a better way of working. But from my point of view, I just didn't know.
That's awesome. So is this something you want to do long term, or is this just something you're kind of doing for the challenge of it? It's
something like, hey, it's a type of art I haven't done before. But really, I like Ultraman, and I'm like, here's a way I could work on Ultraman. That's really what it was,
Did you get to draw Bimular? Just
can't say.
Okay.
I can't say what I it probably wouldn't matter, but I'm not supposed to talk about what I did or didn't draw, so I can't say. But I will say I did more than just Ultraman.
Nice.
There were other characters, so yeah,
cool.
I can say that. But yeah, I don't think I would do them regularly. I think the people who do them regularly, like that's all. Well, either they're desperate for cash and they're just like, I gotta get some cash, or they make a career out of it and they get so quick at doing them that they do like 100 in a month, and then like, okay, they made a little bit of money there and they get all these APs and stuff. But it's like, it's a whole nother career. It's a whole nother grind. And especially like you said, I have a kid now and I have all this other stuff going on. Saying I need to do 10 cards in a month, that's not that bad of a timeline for me. But if I had to do this like a lot quicker all the time, no. And also because like I could do the same art on a print and then going back to the topic, which we haven't really discussed, sell it online and make more money and also get more. It's also, I can't share any of the stuff I did for who knows how long, so I think it's worth anybody doing once or twice if they have an opportunity. Why not? But I think it takes a special passion or type of person to actually make this a big part of their career, because it's not something easy to do that way.
Yeah, I think Kawagiwa did like some Star Wars sketch cards like years ago, like from, I think it was Topps, and he'd get like these just massive amounts of cards and have to do like 100 cards in like a week. It was insane. But he's really fast and he's good with marker comps and like storyboards and stuff. So for him, it was like a hobby thing at the time, and like was really a good challenge. And then I think did lead to some work doing actual Star Wars property stuff.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, it could always lead, because I can say that I have worked on an official licensed Ultraman product.
Yeah, for sure.
That is true. And there's a certain amount of cachet that goes with that. And, who knows? But it also depends on your art style. Like if I was doing some kind of fast, loose thing, it wouldn't really represent how I draw.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is a lot closer to what they would get if they hired me to do a comic or something like, and that's also what goes back to why I'm putting this extra work in, because there are people that might see this that would never otherwise know who I am. And I want to represent myself well,
That's a good rule of thumb, I think, in general anyways. You should always be trying to represent yourself well,
Yeah, agreed.
So as far as, beyond that, and you've got your Etsy store, and you also mentioned eBay. So is that kind of what you're doing besides the sketch cards, is selling prints on eBay? And
Etsy primarily.
Okay.
I do take a commission now and again. Like I keep saying I got to stop taking commissions, and then I take another one. I took one recently, which I can't show you. I can say what it is, but I can't show it because they haven't seen the art yet. But it was just a headshot of Gypsy Danger from Pacific Rim.
Okay.
And part of the reason, certain times, like when I'm busy or can afford to turn down work, which is kind of where I'm both busy and I'm not super desperate for money right now. I tend to only take commissions that fall in my wheelhouse of interest, or I could make into a print. So they wanted a digital headshot, which means I can make prints of it. So after I give it to them, my Gypsy Danger headshot is going to go up on my Etsy store. And I didn't charge them a lot. I mean, that's a sliding scale, obviously, but I charged them less than I normally would. And it basically covered the cost of the next 3 prints I'm putting on my Etsy store. So technically I didn't make any money at all, but I have 3 prints, 10 each up on my Etsy store in a month. And, you know, that's all free products that I have out that I wouldn't have had out. It's kind of how I did that math in my head. So yeah, I do occasionally take commissions, but my Etsy store I've had for, I don't know, 5 years that I've actually been doing something with it. I had it longer, but 5 years ago I started like really trying to do stuff. And every year it's gone up a little bit. And I'll give you rough numbers. I'm not going to pull up the actual numbers, but like the first year I maybe made like $90, like, and then the next year I did like 150, and like it was going up. And then like 2 or 3 years ago, I made like 350, which was the most I'd ever made. And then the next year I did like 400 or 500. And then last year I doubled it and it was like $800 or $900. Not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, but the most I'd ever made on Etsy. And then this year I've made way more than I've ever made on Etsy. And I'll be clear, this isn't me like bragging. And to some people, they might still think it's not a lot. But I made right now so far, I'm over $3,000 on my Etsy store, which again isn't enough to live on, but like way more than I've ever made. And I don't know if it's because of COVID and nobody could go to conventions, or if it's because something tipped and all of a sudden people are like, hey, you want Power Ranger art? Go to this guy, or, you know, or what? Cause I'm always adding things constantly. And I've run a couple sales the last couple of years, but I've run sales before and usually I'll get like 1 or 2, but like my Black Friday sale this year, like really worked. And I got like a couple $100 of sales that weekend, you know? The other thing I changed is a little while back, Etsy was pushing everybody to offer free shipping, which I did not want to do.
Yeah,
because
I did that.
Yeah, I did too. I didn't want to do it, but I said it so that you had to spend 35 or over. And I did the math that like, yeah, I'm going to lose money, but I'll still make a profit. And what I found was that, yes, I made some sales where I gave free shipping, and then I made, you know, depending on how big it was, $5, $10, $12 less money on that shipment. But I was still making more sales overall. And some of those sales were people that weren't getting free shipping because they just bought 1 or 2 things. So my Etsy, like, I'm trying to figure out why my Etsy is doing better, and so I could help it keep growing into the next year. And the only things I could think of are like COVID, which is beyond my control, may have been affecting it. I've been doing more sales and free shipping, which is counterintuitive because I'm asking for less money, but I'm making it up in volume. And I've been much more diligent about adding new things fairly often, you know, as often as I can. Ideally once a month, but at very least every other month. And so because I've been doing well, I've been looking for other avenues. And Creed Stonegate, who was a good way, the Retro Maniac, he does a lot of stickers and things like that.
Yeah, I know Creed.
He's really good about marketing and printing and all that stuff. So I talked to him a lot about this kind of stuff. And he sells on eBay and he sells on Etsy. And so I was like, well, let me throw some stuff on eBay. And that's something I've done recently. And as of yet, I haven't made any sales. But it's only been like a couple weeks that I put them up. But I'm not sure how good eBay is for it. Years ago, I did it for commissions, and I regretted that because I got the weird commissions, like, weird subject matter that I didn't really want to do, but I needed the money. And I'm not even talking about like porn necessarily, just weird, like, what are we doing here? And then like a million revisions because they're not like normal clients. There's some guy on eBay that's like, oh, can you, So I did a few of those and I stopped. But what I find is on eBay, you can track the views, and I put up a lot of my best-selling prints, and they're barely getting any views. Not even sales, but just people aren't even really looking at them that much. And one of them, I paid the $250 to promote it, and it's got like a few more views than the others. And then 2 or 3 of them, people like watched it. It gives you an option to give them give them a lower price, which I don't like to do with art. I don't like to haggle. Like if it's something, if I have a sale going on, but I'm just trying to see if I can sell art on eBay. And so all 3 of them, there were bigger things. It was like a $50, like a set of all this. And I'm like, okay, how about 45? And I got no response. And so it's early days, but right now eBay is not thrilling me. So I'm curious if you guys have had any experience with them versus Etsy, which was a slow burn, but at least had some traction even in the beginning.
Yeah, I haven't even touched eBay. So I know Jeff Lafferty has some success on eBay, but probably his success, he does a different kind of artwork that I think is.
Right. Is he selling prints or original art?
I think both. I think.
Okay.
I think both. But at least I definitely know originals, I think.
Because I can see originals selling better too.
Yeah.
Than prints, maybe.
So I do eBay or not eBay. I do Etsy, but my sales have kind of, and it's partially my fault for not concentrating on it. But I've been concentrating more on my own website and everything.
Sure.
And when that whole free shipping thing came around, I've kind of revamped my Etsy store, because at the time I was selling print-on-demand T-shirts through there because they have like Printful integration. But just the way that free shipping worked, I had to pull all those off, and then I had to remove a bunch of my products that weren't just the right price for whatever, weren't the right price for that. But the weird thing is, even though I've offered the free shipping for, like you said, I think it's 35 or more.
Yeah.
Hardly ever. I mean, most people just pay the shipping and buy less than the $35, because I specifically said it so, my regular size prints are like $25, so I upped the price a little bit.
Right.
They were 20, and I upped them to 25 to kind of cover
you upped
that.
them when you gave the free shipping option.
Right.
See, I didn't do that.
Okay.
I wanted to do that, and Etsy's always telling me, if you up your prices, you would have said. I'm like, I don't feel like I should up my prices any more than they are. Like, I think.
Yeah. Well, part of it was that, and it was a whole weird thing, because part of it was kind of illegal, that if you're factoring, I remember reading something, if you're upping your prices and then saying there was some weird legal thing, but Etsy was still recommending you do it. But at that point, I just, I had been charging the same amount for prints for a while, so I didn't mind upping that price. But yeah, so I had to remove a bunch of my stuff. But what I am thinking about doing once I get into doing some more print-on-demand T-shirts is open a whole separate store just for that on Etsy.
Right. And not offer free shipping.
Yeah, but Etsy's changed quite a lot, and maybe that could be some of the reason why you're getting more sales. I don't know, because they definitely moved away, and not in some ways it shouldn't affect you, because you're doing your own original creations, where now Etsy has allowed you to sell other people's stuff. So basically, there's a lot of people who are selling print-on-demand stuff that they don't even design or have anything to do with, other than they just have a store.
Maybe they're just getting more traffic in general, and I'm the beneficiary.
Yeah, they've definitely grown that. They're more profitable now, but they're definitely moved away from the hand good thing. Same thing with Redbubble, whereas before it was I think Redbubble is still the best stuff. The stuff that sells most on there is high design, whereas I don't know if you guys are in this world as much as I am, but I'm now getting into the merch by Amazon and all that kind of stuff, which is basically throw a bunch of crap at the wall and see what sticks. A lot quantity over quality,
and they do all the printing and stuff for you. I guess you just
they print it and ship it out. It's a lot of text-based designs. A lot of people that have no business really. That's kind of bad for me to say, but I'll say it anyway. They have no business trying to design T-shirts. They're
essentially using it as clip art and
that kind of thing, and they just throw a bunch of stuff up there, and a lot of people are really successful, and now they're looking to also go into Redbubble and sell their stuff on there. So there's just a lot of really not so great design. So eventually, I think it may. And they're selling enough on there, they just out of volume. So it's just weird how that all that stuff's kind of changing. But and it could just be because you've been there long enough. I mean, sales beget sales, and the more people that I'm finding that out just right now, because I'm just getting into publishing books on Amazon through KDP, that it takes a little while for stuff to start ranking, but once it starts to rank, that stuff will continue to sell. So
that's something, and this is super anecdotal because I don't know if it applies to anybody but me, but on Etsy, especially the last year or so, what I've noticed is I'll go a week, a month without any sales, and then I'll make a sale, and then later that night another one, and then the next day I'll sell 4 within 2 days, and then not again for 2 weeks. And that
are they different products, or are they the same print?
No, different.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes it's the same, but it almost seems just because something happened on my shop.
Yeah.
Traffic seems to go there, and I don't have proof of that, but that's what it seems like.
I've seen that in scale with other things, with I've been selling on Society 6 for years, and I barely promote it, but I still make passive income on it just without mentioning it,
Right.
But when I was actively promoting it, it's it brought in a lot of income, a good little chunk. It would definitely cover groceries every week, kind of thing,
That's nice.
And it did peak like that, where it's like I don't know what it is. Maybe it's algorithmic.
Mm-hmm.
It might also just be me being suspicious and weird about it too. But it's like I definitely noticed like you would have these days where just like one thing would sell and then another, and then you have this like little peak.
Yeah.
Ebb down. And I still even see that passively now. Like if I look at it, I'm like, oh, like there's a month where it just goes, and then it's like back to nothing. So it's weird, but I've definitely noticed that with sales, and I think the key is like, how do you kind of like up that algorithm and
buy your own stuff, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, like even with my comic, like that's half of why I'm like aiming for pre-orders too, is just to try to kind of game the algorithm a little bit so that it has a fighting chance with like publishers that have a much larger budget than me.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, how do you compete with Pantheon, like, you know, which has Knopf behind them, which is like the biggest publishing firm in the world. So it's like they have all the marketing budget. So it's like, how do you rig that system? But what is weird about consumers, whatever it is, it's like, I think once it's in that algorithm, when people get the sense something's being bought, it instantly increases their interest regardless of like the quality of it. It's really weird, but it's like people have this like herd. I've seen it at conventions too. Where
I was going to say the same thing, that the busy table stays busy regardless. Yeah.
That's why you just hire some of your friends to kind of congregate around your booth. And then
what I started doing too, I may have mentioned this before, but like at conventions, if I got someone to come over, I would that was buying, you know, I would not be in a big hurry to get rid of them. And I'd be talking to them, and I'd also somebody did this. I wish I can give them credit because somebody told me, or I saw somebody do this. But what I'd literally do, okay, I have a print right here. Okay, so this is a Godzilla print. So somebody's buying the Godzilla print. It's on the table where I get it from back.
Say where you hold it up.
Yeah, and I'd be like, oh, you're okay. So this is the one you want, right? Like, okay, well, this is Shin Godzilla, right? And I would just be making a point of kind of doing this a lot, you know. And I think it helps because it might not necessarily mean a sale right that second, but anybody nearby is like, what's that guy waving around? It's that same theory of the sign in front of a store. It's stupid, but we're humans and we're trained to notice movement. And we're like, huh? And then they see somebody buying it, and then it's, and is it foolproof? No, but it yields some results sometimes, so why not try, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, like it doesn't hurt. Like it doesn't hurt to try to look for ways to kind of make that perception there so that people will actually pay attention to the product. Because like at the end of the day, like if you have a quality product, you're not worried about the product. You're just trying to get it out.
Yeah. And it is weird too, because the way I have my thing set up, Dream Syndicate says it's fear of missing out. And that's absolutely true. But I have my stuff like up on a wall behind me like this, and people will walk by and not see it. But if I am holding the same piece of art just like this, they'll see it. It's like it's just like the blinders don't allow them to see the wall of art. But the little piece that's moving in your hand, they're like, what's that?
That's what object syndrome. Yeah. It's like, there's a lot of that.
Another online thing that I have not tried at all, but again, I've given Creed credit again because I've been talking to him a lot about this stuff. But basically, because I'm not able to go out and do caricature gigs, because I'm not able to take as many jobs as I was, I've suddenly got a lot more interested in online selling than I previously was. And combine that with the fact that my Etsy store has been doing better than it had, I'm now looking at these other avenues. There's a place, I'm gonna look right here, Displate. Have you guys heard of Displate?
No.
Okay. I have not used it. This is all secondhand knowledge from Creed Stonegate. Check his art out. He does a lot of cartoons and stuff. And what he was saying is it prints on metal. You've probably seen things like this, like a metal sheet. And they're expensive. Like they might go for $20-$40, whatever. But it's sort of like I forget if like it's almost like a cafe press or something like that. I'm trying to think of a site where you just upload the art. Mm-hmm. So you upload high-res art, and then they offer it to people on their site. Small metal plate, big metal plate, all kinds of metal plates, whatever, it's sort of, and you get a percentage. And it's not a super high percentage, but they sell for so much money that it's still, you might get like $13 off it, even though they sold it for 40, which is a terrible percentage, but that's still $13. You don't have to print it. You don't have to ship it. You just give them the art and say, good luck. The only caveat is it has to be pretty high res because they want to be able to print it large. So I haven't seen I don't want to create any new art, but I'm thinking if I could take some of my art and give it to them and just, hey, if it works, it works. If not, whatever, it doesn't cost me anything. That's what I'm looking into. And I guess the idea is it might sell to like a restaurant or a store or someplace like that doesn't want like a poster, but I guess it's also I have no problem putting a print on my wall with nothing on it or framing it or whatever. But I guess some people want it to sort of be framed and ready to go. And so like the metal is sort of gives the impression that it's more sophisticated or something, which is weird when you're selling cartoon art, but whatever. But yeah, so basically Etsy I've been doing and has been working out. eBay I started doing, I'm not loving. And Displate I am about to start, but I have no input other than Creed telling me, hey, nothing ventured, nothing gained, So I was like, all right.
So with Displate then,
yes.
And I'm assuming if Creed's using it, then it should be all right, because Creed does mostly, I think, if not all, fan art. Because I know a lot of places right now, like especially Redbubble and Society Sick, a lot of these places, they crack down on any kind of fan art or anything like that.
Well, so, I know I have it open right now, and I'm looking at he has a Mr. Meeseeks from Rick and Morty on the site currently, but it's weird that I'm like I'm speaking for Creed Stonegate here, unofficially I'm speaking for him. I think he has said that certain sites flag certain fandoms, like it might be generally okay, but he was saying I don't know if I should say the properties. There was a Nickelodeon show that was referenced, and he was saying that one gets taken down constantly anywhere he puts it. So something about this particular Nickelodeon show, the creator is somehow extra vigilant, or it triggers something, which is weird because you would think something bigger like a Mickey Mouse would trigger it, but this is a smaller show. Who knows? So I don't think all of these sites are blanket banning all fan art. I think different sites have different levels of concern about different properties. You know what I mean? But it's also weird too, because sometimes you'll have a mashup, which is certainly more transformative, and that could get banned too, which it starts to be like, well, that might actually be like it's all gray area, but some things are a little bit more defensible legally than others and still get taken down. So yeah.
One of the mashups got so big on Two Fury when it first kind of boosted up and stuff, and that just kind of blew mashups up on the internet,
Right.
But it's part of why they could get away with it was literally day of sales and then they're gone.
Right.
So they would do it's available for 24 hours. By the time they get a cease and desist letter, it's offline. It doesn't exist.
And the companies aren't going to be interested in going, well, give us back that $2,000 you made that day. Like, that's not worth pursuing.
I will say, from what I've heard, I think they did start getting some pretty massive legal stuff happening.
I still see those t-shirt companies. I mean, maybe not the exact one you're talking about, but I still see t-shirt companies putting out fan art, mashup or not, on a daily basis. So, I mean, I don't understand the legalities of it. But basically, as long as you're able to sell some sort of fan art on these sites, I will keep doing it. And if you're not, then I won't. Like, that's kind of, I'm not looking to start a revolution, and I've said this before too, like at Comic-Cons, like I sell fan art because selling my own creations and comics, I won't pay for my table.
Yeah.
If tomorrow they legitimately banned all unlicensed fan art, I'd be fine with that, because it'd be a level playing field where it's my art versus your art, not my art versus Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Which I'm going to lose against because it's Spider-Man.
No, and I think it's a good thing. It's just interesting to think, for online selling, that definitely limits your options, but there are a lot of avenues. Like, I would definitely feel like, I know Redbubble for sure has issues with that, because I've had to send them cease and desist. Right. I've had to send them stuff for somebody who uploaded 4 of my t-shirts and were selling.
Right.
So I'm guessing if they can get away with that on Redbubble for a decent amount of time, I think for a property where it's your own art, I can't imagine that being as hard to get away with. Whereas if you're an artist and you see your own work, if I opened a shop and started selling your stuff, Gaz, that's going to get pulled down and instantly.
Well, it's a whole nother level too. It's not I'm doing my interpretation of something a big company did. Yeah. It's like I'm stealing from another artist, which is no one is on your side at that point.
My biggest pet peeve with that too is literally I've seen JPEG edges where they clipped they were trying to make it frame to the t-shirt, and it literally has the fragments of holes on the edge. I'm could you at least do a good job ripping it off?
Right.
But yeah,
I actually had somebody. I rarely get ripped off. I have friends that get ripped off all the time, but I had somebody rip me off that I know of the first time just recently, and I found out about it because I collect toys and I'm in toy groups, and there's a guy who I know in a toy group, and he posted a picture of himself with a new Transformer toy he bought, and he had a mask because COVID, and it had Bumblebee from Transformers, like a smiling face, and I'm like, I think is that my Bumblebee? And I didn't make a mask of it. And I said, and I like, hey man, where'd you? And I thought maybe he just printed it himself, which wouldn't upset me because like, okay, whatever, you made one. And I'm like, hey man, where'd you get that mask? He's like, oh, I got it on Etsy. I'm like, really? And then I'm like, does Etsy, maybe they're making, without me realizing it's an option. And he sent me the link, and it was a guy's store that had a bunch of masks and prints, several different styles, like clearly not all his.
Yeah.
And one of the things was a Bumblebee mask. And like, I was so perplexed that it was my art that I even like, no, it's definitely my art, but by the time I was going to say something, his store went down. I don't know if it got taken down or he quit or whatever, but it was crazy. Like, and that was on Etsy, which again is like more reputable theoretically.
Yeah. Doing merch by Amazon and KDP. I mean, I see that stuff all the time because there's these, people that have YouTube channels dedicated to merch by Amazon, and they'll do these shop reviews. And they'll show these Etsy shop, and it's just so weird because even the people that are doing the YouTube channel, they're marketers, they're not artists, and they're doing these shop critiques, and they really don't, from a design aesthetic, they don't know what they're talking about. But they'll show these shops, and it's just like you said, all these different styles. It's like clearly this, and half the stuff is is either trademarked, and these are like.
I just Google images, okay, and I'm hiring my designer here, but for the image I want, and there we go, and just put that on a mask, and that's that. But anyhow, my point was just to say, like, I think that there are like some on-demand companies that are tolerant of that kind of fan art. Mm-hmm. Given that I think there's on-demand companies that are tolerant of stuff that are like way more legally questionable than fan art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, fan art is at least like your own creation. You can make an argument. It's your own interpretation. You can there's a lot of flexibility with like parody law and all sorts of stuff. But whereas, so I feel like there's got to be markets. I don't know about Society 6. I think they cracked down on that pretty bad. But I have seen some.
Well, going to t-shirt ones, Threadless seems to not really do much fan art. It's more just design work and stuff.
Yeah, nowadays, yeah. Although they, with them, if your parody's like veiled enough, like you're okay.
Right. Like I think they were the first ones that had that. Like it's Pac-Man, but it's like an astronaut in a yellow suit seeing the ghost of his dead friends because he overdosed. And it's like, okay, if you think about it, it's Pac-Man, but it's not. It's you would have to really think about it to realize what it is.
Yeah, but I do think like Society 6 might be a possibility. I definitely look into it because I do think those on-demand companies do have the advantage of if you put in some time, like kind of marketing it, like you're not paying the cost of the thing.
Yeah, and I have like in my garage, I've got like boxes of prints that I just have like stocked, which would be nice to not have to do that as much either, Yeah,
I just got my box of these for shows.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious and for retail, but it's like, when am I going to do those shows or retail? I don't know.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is funny when you do art, it's like you have boxes of comics in the garage.
One of my friends who's an indie comic guy, he had some comics he had done back in the day, like floppies. And I remember he's always been ahead of the curve of where I am, and I don't say that in a envious way. It's just a fact, And he had done these books and he was moving and doing stuff. And I remember he threw out, just put on the curb. He was like living in Brooklyn time. And he just put on the curb like 2 long boxes of comics, not Marvel or DC, his own comics. And I was like, why would you do that? Like, that's crazy. He's like, they're old. I've got new stuff. I'm not really promoting it. I'm like, yeah, but if you get a couple bucks here and there, it blew my mind. And now I'm like, yeah, I can see that. Like if I had a long box of comics I did like 5-10 years ago that weren't selling, what am I going to do with them? Maybe I donate them to a library if they wanted them, but like who wants issue number 2 of a floppy that no one's ever heard of, So like, as sad as it is, at some point it's not because it's reproduced. It's not art in that sense. Like it's not the original. It's a commodity, and at some point the commodity has no value, and it's literally just taking up space in your house.
Yeah.
But it took me a while to realize the wisdom of that move, like
I think it's always good to have some stock, but you want to try to avoid dead stock, right? I mean, that's what discount bins were invented for, so.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some questions in chat that I kind of don't know. Like somebody was asking about webtoons. I don't know anything about webtoons. I don't know if you guys want to address that. And then somebody else, there was another question too that I missed somewhere.
Yeah, I think Jeff Lafferty would be somebody to ask about webtoons, because I know he's been doing webtoons. I don't know. Scott, have you ever messed with webtoons?
I haven't. I haven't really ran my comic as a web comic at all, and not because I have any problems with that. I mean, I like that business model. It's just the reason why is because I'm afraid if I start running it, even with the big buffer, that I'm eventually going to catch up to myself, and I'm not going to be able to keep up with the schedule.
I've never entertained the possibility because I am the slowest artist on Facebook. There's no way I'd be able to do it.
And then there's some other questions in the chat about materials for comics and stuff like that. And I do a show called Making Comics 101, and I'll have another show coming up, and I do a live episode where I answer questions like that. So I might and I've answered those questions before. This is sort of a different format than that. This isn't where we just answer a lot of those questions. I mean, because
no, but if you're looking for how to do comics videos, Scott has tons, and they're all
like the Bible of it. I mean,
yeah.
But
that being said, yes, check out his videos. But for a quick answer, just paper and a pencil. Like you don't need anything special to make comics. Like just go. In terms of how to make it into the industry, forget it. Just make your own comics, and then like it used to be, talk to editors at conventions, send samples to Marvel. No one's looking to hire. Make your own books. You won't make any money. Then
that's not true. If you can build your own,
expect to put it that way. You certainly can make money, but make it with the understanding you might not make any money, which is good anyway, because if you don't love doing comics, don't do it, because it's super hard. Like there's no reason to do that unless you love it. But make your own comics and try to sell them, and maybe you can, maybe you can't. But then you'll have samples that you could then show on like Facebook groups and artist groups where people are looking to hire, and maybe they're not paying a lot, maybe they're not Marvel Comics, but you do a little work there. You do all that stuff for a while, and then maybe if you have a chance to show something at a bigger studio, you'll have a book that you could show them, or maybe somebody will have heard of you and recommend you. But the days of like, going to Boom Studios and saying, hey, can I have a job? Like there was literally a post that was for writing, but the guy, I forget his name, who runs Boom Studios, made a public post of like, stop asking me if you could write Power Rangers. No, you can't. The guy who's writing it is doing a good job. It's insulting that you keep saying that. If you're a good writer, like write, and which is, a lot of people thought was mean, but again, I'm like, no, he's right. Like, why, so make comics, just make them.
Yeah. And I'd definitely say like with most of the mainstream guys now, a good percentage of them started in indies. So like another thing to keep in mind is most of the mainstream guys I've met, and some who I know, like all kind of have a similar narrative of they wanted to get the big comics so they could work on their dream comic, which was their own indie, like their own creation. And then they ended up getting sucked into like this Batman cycle. None of them got Batman, but my point being, got stuck in that cycle with a character on a title and just kind of working for like ridiculously low wages, and never having time for their own personal work. I've met many of them who've been like, yeah, in like 10 years, so when I'm done with this run, that's when I'll do my book. And it's like, they're going to say the same thing 10 years from now. And so like, the point is, while you're not with a comic company, take advantage of it, make the best comics you can on your own. And like the materials will make themselves present. We all started with the wrong materials, and then you start, weirdly enough, all start using very similar materials as like the greats. And it's mainly because like, hell, I started comics with a Sharpie and, photocopy paper. And then like from there, I just dated myself by that photo.
Printer paper, you mean, sir? Printer paper.
I would then fax that paper to myself.
Feather quill. It was quite modern. And
but yeah, like that stuff becomes apparent. And like the point being, like a lot of the bigger guys in comics, like all started with indies, their own self-published stuff, then moved to like Ani or slave labor, like really like smaller indies. And then
or from the other side, they might have come from screenwriting or had a name in journalism or novels, or like were already known writers elsewhere and come in. But like very few people, like we're saying, it used to be that your first job was writing a backup story in Swamp Thing for 4 pages and you got a break. That just they don't just do that anymore, really.
And yeah, they do it with indie guys, but that's the thing. Just become an indie guy, get known, hustle your stuff.
There is, and there's a lot of truth to what you're saying about the guy who gets the, or girl or whatever, but gets the job for DC that gets stuck in that. But there's also the thing to say of most people, like I've seen several people that worked on Spider-Man for a year or two, got kind of known, and then said, "Hey, I'm doing my own book now." And that indie book did way better because people knew
100%.
So if you want to do an indie book and you're doing your thing, and Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, whoever says, "Hey, you want to do a book for us?" It is worth doing it for a certain amount of time, because then you get like a certain amount of credit or legitimacy or whatever you want to call it, that then when you do your own, people are more interested. It's not fair, it's not right, but it's true.
Yep, it's very true. So it's part of the same thing with fan art too, where it's like if you're trying to get people into your style, it helps to draw characters that are known, so you can pull people into your style. And maybe bring them across the aisle to your own work. It's good.
Peter Palmiotti says Ross Ritchie is the Boom CEO. So I'm assuming that's who I was talking about earlier. I think he's the one who said that about like stop trying to ask me to be a writer for Mighty Morphin.
Yeah, I also like, man, that's such a good thing. Like just as an idea, because like I've experienced that too, where I mean, this is like early on, like maybe like a year into working as a professional illustrator, and I was at like a Comic-Con, and I got asked to do a Bongo test packet.
Bongo to do Simpsons and things like that.
Yeah, and they asked me, like they had a whole line of people to review, and one of the guys doing the reviews walked past and saw my indie comic, This Thing, right? And I was, and at the time it was just a photocopied version because I was trying to get pull quotes from people. So it's like this kid with like an indie comic that's photocopied, and he's like, "Can I take a look at that?" And he like thumbs through it, and he's like, "This is better than like half the crap I'm gonna have to look at."
Right.
And part of his frustration was all people were bringing was like drawings of the Simpsons and to the Bongo booth, because they're like, "Look, I can draw the Simpsons." And he was like, "I want to know that you can draw characters sequentially repeated in multiple like different, like environments and stuff like that." And so like even in the case of like licensed stuff, like doing your own published work in comics is the way to go.
Yeah, I've heard multiple people higher up on the food chain than any of us say some version of the worst finished comic is better than the best pinup, because the pinup doesn't show them anything. And at least if you've got 22 pages in a row, at least you could put 22 pages in a row. And like, so, I mean, it's a bit of hyperbole, but it's generally true. Yeah, like no edit. Well, hardly any script is going to be all splash pages.
Yeah, that's awesome. So with the online thing, like, what do you do to increase? Like, what have you done so far for anybody who's kind of interested in like building their eBay? So where you eBay.
Yeah, I would go with Etsy before eBay, but yeah. Well, my first thing would say diversify, which is what I'm in the process of doing now, because why not? But obviously I have social media presence everywhere. One of the main things I do too is on Facebook, and you can do this anywhere, but Facebook is the easiest way. I have an artist page that is separate from my personal page, which I think is a must. It just, you don't want pictures of your grandmother and then the new piece of art you're selling, and also that allows me on my artist page to join a lot of groups and pages that I might not necessarily want to join on my main page. And when I put up a new piece, I'll spam groups with it, but I target spam. So if I put up a new piece of art that is Ninja Turtles, I'm a member of like 10 Ninja Turtle groups, like Ninja Turtle toy collectors, or hey, who remembers the 90s or whatever, all, you know, or cartoons from the 90s, anything where they could fit. And then I will put it up and I will share it to all of those groups. I never spam other stuff because you get like flagged or kicked out. But if it's always, I put the turtle stuff in that, and then same thing, Transformers, anything that's actually Transformers, or anything that's 80s cartoons, or anything that's robots, or, and then, you know, Godzilla and Ultraman, and I funnel them to where they'd want to be. And I'm always joining new groups. And I try to, it's, you know, you don't want to spend all day on social media, but every now and then I go on those groups and like a few things or make a comment here and there just to like show people I'm not a robot, you know. That's the main thing. Something else I do is, like I sell junk on eBay, like toys or whatever. And almost any correspondence I send to anyone, I'll put in like a business card with links to like my YouTube and everything else. Like, and maybe 1 in 100 people will look at it, but like, why not? You know, I have the cards, let's do it. So that's what I mainly do right now is, and where I, you know, I share it on all my social media and then share it to specific groups that would be interested in that subject matter.
Yeah, people underestimate business cards. Like it's weird, but it's like even at like, you know, pre-COVID at conventions, like a lot of my earliest like freelance gigs came from comic conventions of giving my card. And then sometimes the person I gave my card to was like the senior editor at like a publishing firm that was like, we need illustrators. And they're like, and your stuff's cool. And I've got this card. It's
even on a smaller scale, just some guy that decided he wanted whatever, you know, like, yeah, it's not even always a big deal, but any job's a job.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, it's like, I do think it behooves us as illustrators to kind of behave like plumbers. Like,
yeah,
you know,
I mean, the business of art is the worst. The worst part of being an artist is having to do the business, you know, like that. But if you don't, then it's harder to be an artist. Actually, more wisdom from Creed Stonegate. This is something that he's excels at, and this is something I need to get better at. We all should be good at. He trolls different printers of stickers, of magnets, of whatever. And they all have sales, not just on Black Friday, but at different times. And whatever the thing is, he's got his art, like he's got a bunch of 1x1 art ready to go, so that when that sticker company says, hey, you want 100 1x1 stickers for $2 today only, as like some kind of promotion, and he hits those all the time. And then not only is he able to make more profit when he sells stuff because he's always getting the sales, he gives stuff away. Like if you ever order anything from him, I've ordered a few stickers, and he always gives you what you ordered plus a ton of other stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, how do you do that? He's like, I get it for like a penny. You know, like the reason and they all have his name on it. So like, do I have any with me? But they're all like stickers that you might actually put somewhere.
Yeah.
So you can find one. But they also say his name at the bottom. And now I think I've stuck them all somewhere. But like that's the genius of the marketing there, is that it's even better than a business card, because it's a product somebody might use that has his name or website attached to it.
Yeah.
But he's also getting it for next to nothing, so it doesn't cost him anything to give it away. So like that's, again, all credit to Creed. He's like my marketing guru. I've been like talking to him a lot about stuff, so I'm regurgitating a lot of what he said. You know,
that's cool though. Yeah, I think that's really good advice, especially like, you know, if somebody orders from you, like it's weird, but like even with when I used to ship out, like and still do occasionally, like whenever I ship out one of these, I always include the original like press release card, just because it's a really cool print, and it's also like, I don't know, like if I'm opening the mail, like I'd feel good having like something extra.
Yeah,
always feel good. And if you can, maybe sneak in a business card, unless maybe potentially the buyer is somebody you don't want to call you.
No, okay, here's the thing. No, you should have 2 business cards.
Exactly.
The one that has your personal email and phone number that you give to an editor or something. Then you have the one that has all your social media that you give to a random person. Because
I need to do that.
Okay, well that is huge, because, and I learned that the hard way, because I was giving my card to everybody at conventions, and I started getting messages and calls from people I didn't know that thought we were friends now or something. And it was, you know, I would get calls for jobs, but I'd literally get texts from a number I didn't recognize, and then be like, oh, so what's up? Did you see Avengers? And I'll be like, who's this? And then be like, oh, it's Joe. We met at Silicon Valley Comic-Con, 6 months ago. I'm like, I saw Avengers. Why? Were you looking to get a commission? Oh, it was awesome. Who do you think the Visions, like they just start talking to me, or like, hey, I'm you said you lived, in the Bay Area, right? I'm getting a cup of coffee. You want to? And I'm like, what? Like, and nothing horrible, nothing terribly stalkerish, but just like people I don't know talking to me as though I knew them. maybe it's not comfortable, you know, like,
yeah, no, understandable. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I do that. I don't have two different business cards, but I have postcards and I've got business cards, and usually, and I subscribe to that where I give out tons of free stuff when you order from me. So
there you go.
and it helps with like reorders and things like that. You know, people know that they're getting value from you when they order something. So, and really, you know, like you said, or like Creed said, it's, I mean, some of these prints are relatively inexpensive, so you can, you know, you can get, if you get them in bulk, and, you know, sometimes you have things that you create that just doesn't sell, but it's still a nice
I give away
piece,
free prints all the time,
and you can put that in there.
But here's a tip. I sell my prints, and I sell them. I don't know how you guys package, but I put them in the equivalent of a bag and board, you know, like for the prints. But if I give a free print, I usually don't give it a bag and board. And maybe I'm being paranoid, but on the back I write free bonus print, thanks, which is A, to let them know why they have it, but B, every now and then something will arrive damaged, and my policy is like, I'll send you a new one. Like, I'm not going to argue about it. Here you go. Here's a new one. But if it's something that I gave them for free and it's damaged, like, whatever, it was free. You're not, you know, I'm not going to send another one. Or if it's this weird thing where like, well, I was going to give it as a gift to someone. Like, I don't know. I'll give you free stuff, but I don't want, like, I want it to be clear that this is a free bonus thing. That's my weird little hang up, you know?
That's actually not a bad idea either, because if your prints start like really taking off too, like some of the people I've known who've done like event posters and stuff, like you run into this whole issue of like flipping, and which is fine in like an area where you're like flipping product from like or something,
right?
When you're like, you know, like it's like I don't know, like you made posters for Arcade Fire or something, and there's real fans who like want to own it, and then there's like a bunch of guys who are just like, there's a run of 50, I'm buying that 50 and I'm gonna flip it, and you're like, oh no, like that. So a lot of the that kind of thing could also ebb from, like, prevent that sort of thing from happening too on a product that they didn't even purchase, which is like that would be like,
although I mean, I'm not big enough that would ever happen to me, but if I was the type of artist that happened to, you could argue that getting the one that had my handwritten scribbled note on the back, people might want that. If I was
that's true.
You know,
That's interesting too, where people sometimes want like the one where like the registration was off on the screen or
right. Yeah. Like the artist touched this for sure. We know this.
And when you get those AP copies too, I mean, I'm kind of, you know, there's two different ways to look at it. But if you've got AP copies and people are selling it on the secondary market, marking up the price, then you've got those copies that you can sell yourself too.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's true. I mean, it's you know, it's like the people I've known who've gotten into event posters and had that issue, it's like they kind of hate the issue, but that issue also drives their industry. So it's like, you hate that issue, but that's also why when you announce that you're going to put out a poster, people are like, I need it now. Like they aren't going to wait a minute because they know in like an hour it's gone. And like, that's,
well, I think there's also
due to like those guys who are like, I'm going to go in there and buy it all out and flip it. So it's a give and take, right?
It's a little different, but I've seen a lot of stuff in like the sketch commission community, and usually for people with bigger names than us, but like where people are like getting really upset with certain artists of some level of fame charging X amount of money. First of all, people could charge whatever they want. Like I don't know why you'd be mad. You don't buy it then, you know. But there was basically how it broke down to the people that understood it, to the people who didn't, was that like, okay, let's say artist Joe Blow does his drawing of Shadowhawk and he sells it for $50, and everyone's like, that's a fair price, maybe even $100. Why's you gotta, you know, whatever. And then a year or two later, he's selling it for $300. I'm like, why is he selling for $300? But then in the intervening years, it says, oh, well, he's selling it for $50 or $100, and then you find them on eBay for $300. So he's always selling his art and then seeing it online for a higher price that people are paying. So I mean, why wouldn't he then cut out the middleman and say, okay, well, if people are making more than I am on my own art, that's ridiculous. I'm going to just charge that. And also then from the person getting it, then they get exactly what they want in the experience of meeting the artist. And, you know, like they're getting more than just buying it off of eBay. So again, I think people are free to charge whatever they want, and you're free to not pay it. But if I was always selling head sketches for 10 or $20 and they were consistently being put on eBay for 50, I would start charging 50. That's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah. I think the secondary market thing too can also work very similar to like the line at the convention, where it creates like this perception of value.
Yeah.
And then people want more because they're like, well, it's worth something. Like,
yeah.
The same paper, the same printing. And, friends that I've had who've had that like success, it's like, it's not like they started with that. And yet the quality of their work didn't change much. It was just like that perception change.
Well, there's something to be said. Yeah. For like, again, I don't want to at all pretend like I'm pumping myself up to be more than one. But when I, over the last year or so, have cut back, and like, I never did a ton of commissions, but generally if somebody wants, yes, I'll take a commission. I'll take any commission that comes along. And over time, I've taken less and less commissions, and I've even like taken less and less subject matter because I just don't have the time. And it's more when I say, okay, you know what? I think I'll take a commission. I get like 3 messages. And again, not because I'm such a big deal. I'm really not, but there's a few people that follow me that think about getting a commission once in a while. And now that they can't get it whenever they want, it's like, oh, this is the week he's taking commissions. I better hurry up and do it. And nothing has changed except that now it's a little bit more difficult to get a commission out of me. And so now they want it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
There's a lot of
design was saying, I feel like stickers, pins, mugs, and to some degree T-shirts are gimmicky these days. They make you have a large following, but oftentimes beginners get sucked into the gimmick. I will argue with that in the sense of like, I literally made a really decent living for 15 years on T-shirts.
That's not what he's saying.
Never T-shirts.
So hold on. No, Josh, though. You're right. I think making T-shirts isn't gimmicky. Yeah. I think what they're saying, and I've seen this, someone makes a comic, one issue, first time, no one's ever heard of him. They're like, this is Blam Boy. And here's my Blam Boy T-shirt, my Blam Boy mug. And I agree, because I've seen that where they present this image as though they're this super established brand that no one's ever heard of. And they get sucked into it because it feels good when you get your printed comic. You make a sticker. It does feel good. Yeah. And if you just make a whole line of product, because we all want to see that whole line of product for our thing saying
everything. Yeah.
So if they're saying that T-shirts are gimmicky, like you, I disagree. But I think they're saying putting out a line of licensed merch that you do yourself for your own book no one's ever heard of. Yeah, that's kind of silly.
Yes, and I think you should be calculated with it. Like, for instance, like, this is so weird. Gaz, I'm going to have to ask you for troubleshooting advice on this, because we're both in a similar boat where it's like, I'm finally prepped. I have a thing. I've told you guys, I'm not going to convention until I have a book.
Right.
I have a book, and now there's no conventions. Yeah. But so I'm thinking about like alternate ways to market, but and promote a book that don't, like, the traditional indie book promotion tool is conventions, right. And it's a bummer that those are off the table. But
okay, good.
With this, it's like, if I do a convention, I'd be foolish to just do this. However, I want to do only merch that relates to this, but you don't want to make the mistake of making like 20 million pieces of merch for a property that nobody knows about, right? So you want to like be really smart. Probably in my case, like I'd have like a limited edition poster that's related to it, and then maybe some postcards and stickers. That's probably like the minimum. Maybe pins too, because I work for a place that makes pins, so I might be able to get a good deal on that. But the point being, like, you don't want to you don't want a table full of merch you can't move. And also T-shirts, man, like if you hit it right, you can move a lot of T-shirts, but moving T-shirts at a convention is a totally different game than moving them online. And you can end up
have to guess what kind of stock you're going to need. Because I thought about doing some T-shirts as well.
You should.
And everybody I talked to was like, don't. You're the only person that's like, do, because they're like online again is different, but it's like, yeah, you bring 5 medium, 5 large, 5 small, and everybody wants small. And then you got these others and they're heavy, and so like everyone was like, it's not worth it.
It's sad because there was an era when and I know, Gaz, you play music too, but so we probably were playing around the same era.
Well, just to be clear, you're a musician. I'm a guy who's played some music.
Yeah. But anyhow, the point being, like, there used to be this point where you play gigs, and like it was always the men's mediums and the women's smalls that would just gone. like
yeah, I always buy men's mediums. Yeah.
So you'd stock up on that, but like convention rules are not that. It's like it's all over the place. So it's like you'll have a convention where it's like, people come up to you and go like, "Hey, do you have a triple XL?" And so then you order triple XLs for the next one. And you can't sell one.
Yeah,
it's really
and the profit margin is much less than selling a print too.
100%.
Yeah.
Although if you do one color, and I would actually say, Gaz, you could clean up, especially like my thought is like if you did 1 or 2 color shirts that were related to Power Rangers, I think you would clean up when you go to the themed conventions.
Right.
Like ones that I think it's just more like you'd almost have to cater the run directly to the convention you were going to.
This is going to sound weird. This is going to sound weird considering how much I do, unlicensed fan art and stuff like that. I, for some reason, feel like making a T-shirt of Power Rangers is more infringement than a print. Yeah. And I think I might have like 5% reality on my side and 95% just my gut. But something about it, like if I make original art, I feel like I could do original art of anything and I'm bulletproof. Mm-hmm. If I take my original art and make a print of it, I'm putting a little bit of a target on my back because now it's mechanically reproduced. It's a product. It's my art, yes. But it's still like an art print. And then something about when I take that image and put it on a shirt now, it just feels like that much closer to being,
You're right, actually. I think legally it might be more problematic too. But I do think you can clean up with that.
Sure, but I'm not looking like I'm living in the gray area because everybody lives in the gray area. I'm not looking to be the one that's going to get nailed down because I'm pushing too far. You know what I mean? And when I thought about doing shirts, I thought about doing of my monster character, the Horror. And I did think about doing limited because he has like green energy. So I'd be like kind of a grayscale with green energy or whatever. But then it was like, well, how much of a print run do I have to do to make a profit? What sizes do I bring? A lot of shows I go to, I might fly to. How am I going to get my merchandise there? So it's not 100% off out of the question, but it just didn't seem realistic to me.
Yeah. Yep. When Josh says, he had success selling T-shirts, he wasn't necessarily selling his. Well, in a way, you were selling your brand, but it's something that can stand alone.
Yeah.
What was the big one? Generic villains? Was was you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've done some shirts that it's weird. Like my friend Chris sent me an image yesterday too, and it was like the front page of some big. I can't remember. It's like I'm so old I can't even remember, but it's like one of those giant like media sites, and it's like this girl who's like takes the top off like a Trojan helmet and like throws it. It was like the top video of the day online on this like big site. And she's wearing an Attack of Literacy shirt. That girl has no idea who I am, and the internet has no idea who I am. They do know that image. They don't know. And so there is that. Yeah, it is like the kind of shirts I did. It's not like my name was attached. Same with that Kermit thing. That thing's flying all over the internet, and I don't think anyone has any idea like who the artist is. They're just like, that's funny, and like they repost it. So it's weird. It's weird when you've had art meme like that, where it's like you're not necessarily attached with the meme. Like it just kind of flew off and became its own thing. Luckily, it didn't get co-opted, by the alt-right or something like that. That was a nightmare. But I do think shirts can sell really well at conventions. I also know this as just a consumer. It's like one of my favorite things, so I love Shannon Wheeler. He helped me out a lot early in my career. I know there's people in cartooning who don't like him because he's got a personality.
I don't know enough about him to have an opinion.
Okay, well, anyhow, so he's the guy who did Too Much Coffee Man, and I read that comic, it was a classic underground comic.
I know that comic. I don't know him. Yeah, but
and then he kind of helped me out early on in my career, and. So, but the thing I used to do at comic conventions, whenever I go to his booth, I wouldn't buy anything but the T-shirts, that he was selling because I had the books.
Right. Well, that goes into another point too about merch. I buy buttons a lot. Yeah. Because I love art prints, but I don't have room for art prints, and I may or may not want the book. But if I go and stop at a table for a while, I feel like I should buy something. And and I wear buttons and I use buttons. So I'll always buy a button. I'll buy a button if I like your book, but I don't have any money. I'll buy a button if I like your art, but I have no room for it. I'll buy a button if we talk for 10 minutes and I think your art's terrible, but I just want to buy something because you're a nice guy. You know, like buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll buy a button. That's my go-to thing.
Just don't make like giant buttons. Make
no, like 1 inch roughly, or 1.5, 2 inch, whatever. Real quick, I want to address S Black wanted to know from me the name of the guy buying the stickers. Creed Stonegate is his name. How do you spell it? CreedStonegate, I think. It's also infinitecoolness.com is his website. Yeah.
Oh, Dream Syndicate also said hit up people to review books like yours and offer to send them a copy. I have been sending my copies out.
Digital or physical?
Digital. I'm not going to pay the shipping cost.
I didn't think so, but I just was curious.
With this book, like back in the day, like this, I did send out to reviewers, but that was like in an era where like that's how you did it. Like you would literally like they didn't even have like different print numbers, but because I'm not my own publisher, I literally can't do that.
What was that? This is going way back to like the 90s. Was it Fact Sheet 5? Was that the name of the thing? Do you know what I'm talking about? It was like in the era of super indie comics and zines where it was all just self-photocopied and stuff. Mm-hmm. There was a zine you could get, or maybe it was like I don't know what you would call it, but like it was, I'm pretty sure it was called Fact Sheet 5 or something like that. And it would be a list of all the zines and comics that were out for the next 2 or 3 months and where to buy them and who published them, because you couldn't get the internet really, I mean, it was there, but it didn't have this kind of setup. And I remember going through that the way you would like a Diamond previews or like a Scholastic thing at a school and be like, oh, look, Joe Matt's got a new book out. And, oh, somebody has a zine about Green Day. Oh, sure, I'll try that. You know, like, but you wouldn't even send it to Fact Sheet 5. You would send it to the individual people. Fact Sheet 5 was just sort of like an aggregator of information, you know, like a paper website you had to mail away for.
I love that. It's the era of catalogs, but sending stuff out works. I mean, like, sending out press releases, like I literally picked this up this morning. This is my local paper.
Oh yeah, congrats on that, by the way.
That's literally just me. I took that picture. It's on a press release site, so you'll notice like that picture. Like when I get press from those things that I'm sending out, like they're gonna have a very similar pictures because a lot of them are pulling from the pictures that I provided,
which makes their life easier. They don't have to send a photographer out or anything, or
And I mean, at the end of the day, like when you're doing promotions like that or trying to get people to review your book, like you just want to make it as easy for them as possible. But it's also easier said than done. So it's like I'm giving it a shot and we'll see what kind of returns I get. So far, you know, the odds are not good if you were looking at odds like a regular person, but for a solo, like meaning like if you're looking at odds like somebody who hasn't dipped in marketing, then you'd be like, those are bad odds. But for the fact that it's like a grassroots marketing campaign, I'm having pretty good odds so far, which is funny because on paper, if I wrote out how many press releases I've sent out and then how many actual reactions and press I've gotten, abysmal.
Right.
But like I said, that's kind of the game.
Well, but it also depends on how you present it too, because how you present information, like let's say you've gotten 5 good reactions or whatever. Let's just say that's what you got. And you're talking to someone else who hasn't done the work you've done. And they'll be like, yeah, put my book out. I haven't heard anything. And you're like, well, I've gotten 5. They're like, 5? How'd you get 5? You know, it sounds amazing. You did the work. It wasn't a good return, but you still have 5 times as many as the person that didn't try. So it's all, you know.
Yeah. And the thing is like that actually, it depends on your publisher for the return. Like for an indie, if you know, minimal return in key areas is what you're aiming for, because that's the game. I mean, like unless you're a huge name, that's literally the game.
Right.
But that's great advice about hitting up people. And honestly, I'm also open to know other people, but I've definitely been sending it out. So, but if anybody has any recommendations on reviewers to send to, let me know.
I'm going to have to get going soon.
Yep.
But touching back on the online sales, something I wanted to bring up that I forgot to in terms of how to make more sales or drive things. And it relates to what Scott was saying about on Etsy having the $35 over free shipping and a lot of people not taking advantage of that on his site. I think I have it more. Again, this is maybe another shift I did a year and a half ago. I started making a point of having sets. So I had one Ninja Turtle as one of the Misfits, the band The Misfits. And people buy it if they like Ninja Turtles, people buy it if they like the Misfits. Some people don't, just always like a punk rocker, he's a rock star, they don't know. And that sold pretty well for me. And it's an older piece that I still print because it's one of my best sellers. And for some reason, I never did the other Turtles. And then eventually I did the other 4 Turtles. Now I sell sets of 4 Turtles all the time.
Smart.
Similarly with the Power Rangers, I was like, well, the Green Ranger's popular, this guy's popular. Once I started putting teams together, even the less popular teams, I started selling teams of 6 for $50 each. So those are the things they're getting free shipping. They're not picking and choosing a bunch of little stuff. I have these bigger offers of, sets, and A, they sell better because they're the sets, and B, then they'll go for the free shipping. And even though I lose a little bit of money, it still works out. So having sets, having 2 that go together, having 4 that go together, any combo of sets, they've all done well for me.
Scott, have you thought of like the retroventions or whatever, you're selling the full set? Do you already do that?
I've done like buy 2 get 1 free type of thing, but yeah, I haven't. And again, it's different because Gaz is selling something that people know. They know Ninja Turtles, but very rarely do I sell a whole set of like those retroventions. It's usually, I'm a photographer, so I like the one that has to do with photography, or I'm a gamer, or I like the gamer one. Have
you offered it though as a set?
No.
You should. I agree with Gaz on that because just because I've experienced that with art that was not properties. It's like when I used to sell, I'd sell postcards at conventions, and one of the things that would just murder, I don't know why, it just would do well because people would look at all the different illustrations and be like, I just don't know which one to pick. I just, and finally you could just say, well, it's 4 for whatever, it's 1 for $2 or 4 for $4.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, oh, well, I could pick 2 or I could just pay for the pack. And then you have the pack in a nice little bag, and instantly people, it makes their choosing easier. If it's something that's already a set, even the retroventions thing, you're going to if you're playing to a personality like mine that likes hoarding and collecting, it's I want the set, right?
And also don't discount the share with a friend thing.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a photographer, I have a friend who likes video games, you got this pack, and I'm like, well, fine, somebody else will have the other one, give it as a gift or whatever, so whatever they cost individually, you knock a couple bucks off as a set. And I've bought stuff like that where I'm like, well, I want those 2, and I guess I'll get the third one somebody I know will want, that kind of thing.
That's brilliant. That's awesome. And the idea of doing that with teams is really smart. That makes sense. Man, that makes perfect sense, because I've totally fallen for that, especially because I'm a Star Wars geek. It's if I'm buying a limited edition Star Wars poster and it's a triptych,
right?
The triptych, man.
Right.
I don't want just the one,
Or even and that's on the large scale. But even you could do it on the small scale, where if you do R2, do C3PO. Then you're going to sell the 2 together, and ideally, then you also have a whole team or whatever, a bigger, on the big scale, you're absolutely right. A big triptych of the 3 movies or something, that's huge. But even on the small scale, it still works. And I know it works because as much as I've done it, I still have people constantly asking me, hey, do you have this guy to go with that one? Or do you have this monster to go with this? Or I will never have enough combos for what people want, but at least the more I have, the better it does. And I because I do a lot of Power Rangers, I do other stuff too, but the Power Rangers specifically, the Red Rangers will sell well because they're the leader. And then what they call the 6 Ranger, which is the original Green Ranger. Every team has some cool guy that comes later. Those always sell well. But the blue or the yellow, they don't always sell so well. But if you got the team, people are going to buy the whole team. And that's I totally didn't think about that as one of the factors of why I might be doing better, but that's almost definitely one of the factors.
Man, that's cool. That's good advice too. I think that's really cool, actually.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's start wrapping it up then. And so
I'll lay down the beat. You guys spit bars.
Well, I was going to go to you first, Gaz. So I don't know how you can do, if you can beatbox and promote yourself at the same time.
Oh, okay. This is a bad idea. I'm gonna try. I'm not good at this. I'm not pretending I'm. I'm Gazbot, and I'm here to say I got lots of stuff and on eBay where I'd like to buy it or sell it to you. I mean, it's much better on the Etsy scene. You can check me on Instagram or YouTube too. I'm Gazbot everywhere you do. Not in the bathroom, not that style. I'm just selling art and crazy tile. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I'm Gazbot everywhere you want to find me, and I'm not currently open for commissions, but I occasionally am. I do a lot of different art, but mostly kaiju and Power Ranger fan art. I also have my own book, The Horror A4. I have 2 issues out, and issue 3 has been in production forever and will continue to be in production forever until it's done.
Awesome.
Yeah, just wild curiosities.
Say again?
So how far are you on issue?
I hate talking about it because it's never like, I'll tell you, but
it's never where you want it to be.
Correct. And weirdly enough, the pandemic and having a new child seems to have slowed me down. But anyway,
understandably, yeah. I literally, when I was where you were, I took off 3 years from my comic, so I get it.
I'm trying to not do that, but it is. Here's the thing: it's hard to find time to do art, but I still do. Mm-hmm. But what's difficult, for a while I was really pushing, like I'm working on my comic every day, and I'd put in like an hour, half hour, like. And I'd put all this time in and be like, okay, I've inked 2 panels in 2 weeks. Or I put the same amount of time in and I'm like, I have a new headshot that's for sale and I did a piece of fan art that everybody liked. And it's like, when I work on my comic, I feel like the world doesn't know I'm an artist. You know what I mean? Because it takes so long. Oh, yeah. So there's that. But I will give you the update. My book, The Horror A4, it's a kaiju comic. It is 5 issues total, written beginning, middle, and end. So it's not like open, anything goes forever. Yeah. All of them are written. The first 2 are done and available. The third one is 100% penciled and about a third of the way inked and about 75% lettered.
That's good progress, man.
It is, but it makes it, when I see that, it sounds like, oh, it'll be done soon. No, it won't. No, no, it won't. It's very far from being done because, as I just said, it could take me 2 weeks to ink a panel or 2. So
yeah. No, I get it, man. That's awesome. And I would say like the kaiju stuff is awesome and amazing and the prints are really cool, but I highly recommend everybody go get the Horror A4. Go do it.
The more they sell, the more incentivized I'll be to keep working on issue 3.
and it's really cool. And the amount of like just it's great stuff. So
thanks, dude.
I can sympathize because I'm kind of in the same boat with my book, so which I'm hoping to get back to. First of the year.
My goal is to finish my series before Scott finishes his.
Okay. I think you may have more issues to finish than I do. I've got 2 at the most, if not 1 big issue. I don't know.
So then you should definitely win.
You guys
I think I started before you too. So
sorry, what did you say, Josh?
You guys have to beat me before I get the 2nd volume. Like you have to at least get 1 issue out before I'm done with the 2nd one, which I
will take that challenge.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I probably should take that challenge, but I know how much of a madman Josh is. So that's.
You see how thick that book is? I mean, Josh is amazing.
Yeah, I know, but he's like. So when you say, Josh, that you're so many pages into it, is that going off of pages from the first one too, or how far along are you on the 2nd issue?
2nd issue, I'm thumbnailing, man. So I'm like 50 pages in, and it's roughs and thumbnails, working out the comps.
Okay.
I have the script done.
Okay.
But it's
I thought you had finished pages. I'm like, man, you're crazy.
No. I mean, I'm doing really tight roughs, but it's like I'm mainly doing that to cut time in the.
Yeah.
He's, and I don't mean this as an insult because we just talked about how slow I am. He's very slow at inking if you've watched it. And because of the result he gets, it's very detailed. So what I'm saying is I've seen the level of detail he puts in his work. I think it would be crazy if I can't finish an issue that's mostly done before he puts out another thick slab of a book with that much detail.
Yeah.
You know what? If you get your book out before I finish the 3rd issue, I quit. How about that? Literally, because there's no point. There's no point.
Well, I wouldn't want you to quit, but I'll try. Because the aim is like I'll be lucky if I get this done in like a year and a half. So it's we'll see.
I think if I can't get my next issue that's more than halfway done by the end of next year, it's done. It's not happening.
You're in good standing, dude. And honestly, that's really good progress. Like that's crazy. I'm excited though. That's cool. That's closer.
I know. I'm excited. Well, I don't want, we're supposed to be wrapping up here, but I will say it's funny that the end of issue 3 is like what I've been waiting for since the beginning of the book. Like it's
I already
not.
I already know the spoiler. You told me, so I
Yeah,
can't
I'm
wait to actually see it unfold.
Well, I'm not gonna say, but like it is the thing where like, yeah, okay, let's move on.
It is pretty cool though, and it's neat to get to a point where all the threads are starting to connect. That's a great point as a writer. Yeah, so check out my stuff at joshbachemical.com, and if you can, please go to Amazon, order 2 stories, pre-order it, and actually, I've heard that that's not possible in the UK. So if you're outside of the US, there's like a million different book depository. There's a bunch of other places that are selling it. So just go to joshbachemical.com, and if you're not in the US, and look to see where you can order it. So yeah.
Cool. All right. So you can find my work at circworks.com. Like I said, right now, all my digital products, I've got products for making comics, digital brushes, digital just whole packs with comic making tools. All that stuff right now is 50% off. And what was that? Okay. I was just looking at Peter's comment when he threw that up there. Yeah, so all that stuff is 50% off right now until I decide to make it not 50% off. And you can also find me on right here on my YouTube channel. And if you're interested in making comics, we've been talking a lot about comics today. If you're interested in that, you want to know more, I've got a whole series called Making Comics 101 that'll take you pretty much every step of the way in your journey of making comics. So check that out. And besides that, the show that we do it every week usually. The holidays could be an exception. And usually we do it on a Thursday night. As you can tell tonight, if you're watching this live, it's Friday. So sometimes we may do it on a different night. But if you want to know exactly what night, and the other thing is it's not always on my channel. Sometimes it's on Josh's channel. It switches back and forth. And we've always got a different guest. So if you want to know who the guest is going to be, if you want to know what day it's going to be on, whose channel it's going to be on, the best way to do that is to join the mailing list. There's a link in the description of this video. We don't spam you or anything. Usually about 30 minutes ahead of time, we usually send out just a little email that'll tell you, it'll give you a link where you can click on and you can join us, and hopefully join us live in the chat if you're available. We got a lot of people in the chat. So I just want to thank everyone in the chat.
Yes, thank you everybody for chatting.
And we'll see you next week. Later, everyone.
Be here. Well, I might be in chat, but I won't be. You won't be able to see me.